Hey guys, Pixel here. Just wanted to let you know, in the event you want to try and start your own podcast, Anchor FM is the way to go. It has the creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It has everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, but many more as well. Ultimately, it is free, so it's no cost to you. So go ahead and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
All right, and welcome to another episode of Two Guys, One Level. I'm your host, Tortuga, accompanied by Pixel.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome. I honestly don't have much to cover today. It's probably going to be a short episode, unless you have some amazing, crazy news we can stretch. But, go ahead and pop off for us.
Hey, so I kind of want to bring something into the front lines here. So about a month ago, I read a story that I completely forgot to bring up here. But there's this gamer. Her name is Zoe Espinoza.
Okay.
She is most notable because she is one of the top Mortal Kombat players at the moment. Right?
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool. What makes it even cooler is that, what makes it even more amazing is she was born with what's called Leber congenital amaurosis, which
And my furniture's floating.
I'm sorry, what? I see what you did there. And that basically reduces her vision to the point where she can sense the presence of light but cannot see anything. So essentially blind, and she is wiping the floor with people in Mortal Kombat.
That's like, what?
Yeah, look it up, man.
I don't even know how to begin spelling that. I'm going to freaking look up Wingardium Leviosa.
Well, for Zoe, right? So she's been gaming, back on the Sega Genesis. So I want to say she's around our age. And, Mortal Kombat, she stated, is one of her favorite games. But she is really, really good. She does have to practice a lot more, obviously being not being able to see the characters. But she still takes people down.
That's amazing.
Flawlessly. Hey.
That was good.
Yeah, so so the reason I want to bring that up is, you guys should definitely check her out on her YouTube or Twitch. We'll try to link that for you guys in the description. But the main reason I want to bring that up is that Twitch apparently has removed a feature for streamers. Well, not entirely a feature, but you were able to essentially tag your stream on what you were doing. And they removed the blind playthrough tag because of feedback that they have got back from disabled players.
Huh. I mean, I get it.
I do.
I've never looked at it on that side of the spectrum. I've always, blind playthrough, never seen a gameplay before, and this is your first time going through it blindly.
Right.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, but Twitch essentially removed that as a tag. I mean, you still have others. They're still first playthrough, or you can use a combination of no spoilers, for essentially the same sentiment. But it's, I mean, I think it's great because you don't want to exclude anyone. I'm fortunate enough that I don't have any disabilities like that to essentially dissuade me from doing something like this. So it's nice to have that Twitch kind of taking that effort and rolling with it as to not have a negative impact, to have that, again, uniform communal integration.
No, honestly, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's pretty cool that Twitch is kind of taking the initiative, although they're responding to feedback in that aspect. But at the same time, it makes sense. But I feel like They also should have taken the approach of just like renaming it all together, and
I honestly, if I was more into marketing, I wish I could come up with something like myself on that. But I got nothing.
it's not our job.
On another kind of odd bit of news here with another major player here, not totally gaming related, but we have Activision, right? We're talking about one of the major publishers in the game for who knows how long. But back in 2019, early 2019, Activision Blizzard terminated the contract of one of their chief financial officers, Spencer Newman. They never stated why, only that it was unrelated to anything like financial procedures or anything like that. And here we are almost 2 years later. We recently found confirmation of exactly what happened. Because Activision is now suing Netflix, Newman's new employer, for essentially knowing that Newman was going to breach his employment contract. And yeah, so that's what's going on right now. They're starting to sue Netflix for essentially poaching the chief financial officer.
I mean, I don't want to say that's just how it is in the business world, but that happens all the time.
Yeah, I guess
once you make a name for yourself in a certain area,
they're gonna want you. So obviously, if your name is popping up, it's for a reason, and you know, especially if it's in a positive light,
right? So they'll probably come up with a small settlement. It's going to be calculated into like the return of investments, and that's it. They're going to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. Last thing before I switch it over to you is I personally have never played one of these, and I didn't garner any interest for me personally until this latest release. But Persona 5 is one of the console exclusives for Sony. And
hostage.
Not totally. The series isn't totally hostage. We did get Persona 4 on Steam not too long ago. So I think they're testing the waters with that. But Persona 5, they got like Persona 5 Royale, which I believe included, some additional DLC and things like that. And it's like these really, really long games. But they while we haven't gotten the RPG onto PC as well, we are getting a spinoff. Persona 5 Strikers is coming to PC in February. And essentially, it's going to be in the same fashion of Dynasty Warriors, Hyrule Warriors. It's going to be one of those, Koei Tecmo games where you pick a character and you fight hordes of enemies. So that's essentially what we're going to get with the Persona 5 world, or the Persona world.
That's something. I'm in the same boat as you. I've never played anything Persona. From what I've seen, it looks enjoyable. The artwork, I do love what I see, what I've catched online, but I've never personally played any of the games. But I mean, those types of games I've always enjoyed. Dynasty Warriors, that's always been a classic. It's always been fine. It's what I call a mind-numbing game where it doesn't require much tactical thinking. It's just a reflex, essentially. You just go at it.
Yeah. So I haven't enjoyed a Dynasty Warriors since I think 5 was the last one that I fully enjoyed. I think the series just went downhill for me personally. There was just something about 4 and 5, I think, were the best. But we've also, this is not the first spinoff. We've had the Dynasty Warriors one, obviously the Hyrule Warriors, the Samurai Warriors, and they had, what's the one they did in conjunction? It was Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Warriors Orochi. That's what it was. I think they combined the two worlds. So you had characters from Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors.
Man, all I remember was you're some kind of hero, captain hero, and then you just annihilate mobs upon mods, and you just take out other captains until you win the war.
Basically.
Apparently, there was an overall story. I have no idea what it was, but all I know is that some people had specific enemies. And as far as a guy, I played, I want to say 5, 6, and 7, but as far as getting that deep into it, never happened for me.
Well,
Played it for the 9.
it was historical, like it was based on like Chinese history, and while
Sure.
they did take, well, loosely based. I think they took like a lot of the main core things, like warriors like Lubu, Cao Wei, I think Cao. Like a lot of these leaders absolutely did exist. They just had creative freedom when it came to like I, I think like the majority of like
Give
their
them,
weapons. Like Guan
give them
Yu.
abilities.
Well, yeah. I think Zhao Tai was probably my favorite. He had like this thing over his eyes, but his special ability in the game was called the Muso Yu. And his was just the best. Like he was able to take out like hit multiple people. His was like standstill, so as long as like you didn't have to like aim or anything. So I definitely enjoyed him the most.
I don't know. I don't remember his name, but the dude with the nunchucks.
Sun Se. Yep.
Sure. Yeah, that was my go-to.
um, what? So, in surprising bit of news as well, the game's a couple years old now, but very randomly, players who enjoyed Batman Arkham Knight, if you were looking for some reason to get into the game, Rocksteady released essentially two free skins, like out of nowhere. Um, in a free update, the trilogy itself has been over since like 2015, and there has been some DLC and expansions and a whole bunch of costumes that they've added. Most of them were DLC that you had to pay for, but very recently, just a couple days ago, Rocksteady just introduced the anime Batman skin, and I'm gonna butcher this, but it's called a Zur N R Batman skin, and it's like red and yellow, like Robin.
That's interesting. Is that really enough to bring people back to play an entire story mode game that they already beaten?
Bro, no. Just thinking about the Riddler trophies in the Batman games makes me not want to. So, do you ever play any of them?
I very briefly, not enough to complete it. I have played it to like get a small taste, but I never really
No,
dove
that's
into
fine.
it.
So, obviously, this is probably why you enjoyed the Shadow of Mordor as well, right? It was also developed by Rocksteady, and the combat was identical. So that's one of the things that really kind of brought the Batman to life was the combat, and of course, they were able to get a lot of the actors from like the animated show. So there was like the Batman from the animated series, Kevin Conroy, who is probably the most notable Batman.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty cool that they did that.
Same thing with Mark Hamill. He, reprised his role as the Joker.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I can only imagine the type of budget they needed to get those two to be a part of that like, that game experience.
Yep. Um,
So I have something that I was excited about that finally happened. We actually got to get a small taste of this for Baldur's Gate 3, the latest patch that went live about a few days ago.
yep.
So Baldur's Gate 3 patch 3 is live, just like we spoke about last week. The most notable thing for it is the fact that if you do update your game to patch 3, anything prior to this patch, any saves prior to this patch will not work with this patch. However, Larian Studios created a small walkthrough on how to launch the game to basically play on patch 2, which would then allow you to play with the older saves if you wanted to continue playing that storyline that you already embarked on. But just keep in mind that if you do load up patch 3 and you go into your saves, your old saves will not be there. You have to load it up under patch 2, which is doable with between both GOG and in Steam thus far from what I've seen. So one of the things that I am super happy that they managed to fix. I feel like they listened in on the episode a little bit. They they actually changed how the spells are handled in the hotbar. You no longer have to add spells level 1 through 9 in your hotbar if you wanted the options to upcast. Now, if you cast a spell, um, it shows you that that spell has multiple versions of it or multiple spell levels within it, so it can cast at the upcasted level. It lets you choose the number that you want to cast it to.
Nice. How do I get my commission now?
Yeah. Another thing that they kind of, I didn't really see it as a problem, but some people brought it to their attention that when you cast certain cantrips like Frostbolt or Firebolt, the cantrip, like the animations given to it, it was so impactful, like so dramatic and so much into it that it didn't feel like it was lesser than a spell. It gave the visual effect that it was up to par with a spell, being that it
Right.
was a cantrip, which is ideally supposed to be a lot weaker than a spell. Like a spell, using a spell is supposed to be a big deal, and people were saying that casting a cantrip and a spell didn't really give that. The cantrips had too much flair, whereas the spell were just as equal, were they equal. So they kind of toned a little bit on the graphical side of cantrips to kind of give a visual notice that you're casting a cantrip. Nothing else changed as far as like damage and such. They did change how some of the spells interact with the environment, if it's a spell versus a cantrip. But as far as beyond that, it's still technically the same. It'll just look a little bit different, maybe even feel a little bit different. But that was the goal. It was to make cantrips feel more like cantrips, which are level 0 spells.
So I get the logic behind it completely, but I really just enjoyed how all the spells looked. That did not bother me at all.
Right. It was. I don't think it was a big deal. It was just something that was mentioned, and it makes sense, right? You don't want your cantrips to outshine your spells. Although
Right.
in D&D, there are some cantrips that feel like they do outshine spells, because cantrips kind of get stronger as you reach higher levels. They don't stay technically as weak, whereas a first level spell will always do the same damage unless you cast it at a higher level.
Well, don't you have some? Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't you have some cantrips that you can later cast as spells?
No, that's not a thing.
No, I'm okay.
So
Correct me if I'm wrong, bro.
No, cantrips keep their title as cantrips. That would be an interesting mechanic, but that doesn't exist currently in 5th edition.
You heard Wizards. I'm here. I'm ready.
Careful, Wizards been collecting ideas and not delivering for a while now.
Yeah, bro. I'm a report on myself when I sue them.
Wow. Other things that were brought into with this patch are better lighting. They also redid a lot of the scenes, that you got a small taste of in the pre-beta or the paid beta. And honestly, from what I've noticed so far, it looks a lot better. They fixed a lot of bugs where, the animations were off, and when people would speak, their mouth wouldn't move, or they would have no face, like their eyebrows wouldn't react to anything. So they fixed a lot of animations where it seems more cinematic, and it kind of enhances that immersion a little bit more. So that's another thing to look forward to.
Well, you also mentioned when we were playing, we actually, I think we got like an hour or two in on that adventure before the patch, and then we started over after the patch, where you noticed those purple writings on the walls. You said that they were all much more noticeable now.
Yeah, like little things like that. They did improve a lot in-game stuff as well. So which is good, and it's nice to see that Larian Studios is taking into account what the community feels about the game. Right, that's the whole point of this paid beta. They want people to say, "Hey, we like this. Hey, we don't like this," and they are reacting accordingly. They are taking as much as they can into account. And they also said that even though they did not address everything within this patch, because come on, that's not realistic, they do have so many pages of things that they plan on updating within the game that they base just from the paid beta, the feedback that was collected and the reviews, that they have about maybe 5 to 6 months of work just to catch up to what they currently received from the community.
That's pretty
Um,
insane. Wow.
yeah, and they said that they're planning to tackle almost all of it, right? Like that's their goal, is to complete everything that they've collected that they feel would improve the game. And that's a lot. Like you have to think how much stuff they have to be looking at to say that they need to just put in another 5 6 months of work to getting the game, to be where the community would like it to be. That's an amazing kind of mindset as from a gaming corporation.
It is, especially when you consider games, like Anthem and, the year one of Destiny, how much feedback they were like actually being given. And honestly, they didn't touch on none of them. Um, yeah. So, and, Destiny got its like second win with, Destiny 2. They did do a lot with like the expansions of the first game, but again, there were like loot concerns with these, and it's honestly probably why Avengers isn't doing so hot right now either. And it does come, it is a service, especially when you think about games as a service. I know Baldur's Gate doesn't really fall under that, but it still does have that life portion of it, especially considering like how many ways it can branch, how many races you can play, how many classes within those races. So it just opens up a multitude of these branching that it would honestly be a disservice to new players and returning players alike if they weren't taking the initiative to take that feedback and implement them. And again, realistically, they can't do everything, but it's nice to hear that they have that open dialogue with the community, whether it's the PR team, to make sure that these things are being updated.
Right. And I just want to touch on a little bit when you said like all the possibilities that you have with Baldur's Gate 3 for the paid beta. I gotta stop calling that for early access. It's they said that it was roughly 40,000 like lines that were uploaded into this game, like actor lines, voiceover lines. 40,000. That's how many possible dialogue options you have and interactions that you have, all dependent on so many things. Like you said, like your race, your classes, your spells. If you
Right,
have
the
certain
roles,
spells,
the arcana,
no,
the
not even that.
Oh
Not
wow.
even that. If you have certain spells in your arsenal and you cast it before dealing with an NPC or an interaction, a dialogue interaction, if you cast a spell that would help, for example, speak with animals, if you cast that and you actually have a dialogue with certain animals in the game, or if you cast thaumaturgy, it kind of, well, all that really does is give you additional points if you make any rolls. But speaking on the rolls with Baldur's Gate 3, another thing that they changed, which they felt without this change would kind of hinder people enjoying the game. Obviously, that's not something that they want. And the problem that was happening, they felt, or a lot of people felt, that the rolls, like the numbers that you rolled and the targets that you needed to hit, the DCs, like people felt like they were failing way too much in that game. And initially, I 100% agreed. I played it through, and I try not to be one of those people that if I didn't get the roll that I liked, that I would restart right before that encounter. I just rolled with what happened, how it would in a D&D game, right? You can't redo a roll unless you have a lucky feat or a generous DM. You basically just you rolled bad, you continue, with that outcome. And people were saying that a lot of if they it just felt that it was stacked to fail more than it was to succeed. And Baldur's Gate, or I'm sorry, and Larian Studios changed the algorithm a little bit to kind of lean more towards successful roles. Especially, there were certain parts of the game that you could not progress forward if you did not succeed in those social encounters. There was no way to beat them if it became a combat encounter, and the only way to successfully pass through would be through a social encounter. And during those situations, a vast majority, I think it was like upwards between 90 and 95%, would fail that social encounter, which would then ensue a combat encounter, which inevitably you would die. So basically what I'm getting at, they changed it so that if you were unlucky and got bad rolls, it would not stop the progression of the game. Or they would make those situations where you needed to succeed, they would either remove the roll or make it a higher chance for you to succeed in those situations.
Right. So they might have to probably lower the chance of success to like an 8 if they were originally asking for like 15 or something.
Right. Yeah, they did things like that. So honestly, that's the way it should be. It's a problem I see in D&D, even at tables. It's just kind of funny that Baldur's Gate 3 did a lot of the things that DMs do in their own games, where I see it all the time, and people ask for rolls when it's not necessary. For example, I remember at one of the tables that I DM'd, and it wasn't I didn't ask for this role, and until this day I think about it, it was just if you don't play D&D or any tabletops, rolling the dice to determine the outcome of something means that you have to roll. You have to look at the number that popped up on the dice or the die, and then you have to look at your character sheet with the correspondent whatever abilities you want to correspond with that roll, and you add or subtract any of the modifiers that came with that roll. So you have to stop, do a bit of math, blurt out the math, and then some calculations need to be made to narrate what happens. So in this situation, this person, I forgot what they were playing or what they were doing, but all they said is they were upstairs and they wanted to go downstairs. And without me saying anything, they just rolled a natural one and, comically fell on the floor, like tumbled down the stairs and landed on the floor. It's not that they want to kind of like take away from the situation. I just feel like it takes away time from the game, because in D&D you only have so much time to get things done. And I don't know, it's kind of there's just you have to kind of like feel when the appropriate times for that are. But I see it all the times where people will ask for roles when they're not necessary, right? And that just takes away time from the game. And you kind of want to reduce as many rolls as possible, from my experience, and you only roll what's necessary. And the other thing that I see happens a lot in both in the written modules or even homebrews with DMs, and that's where they ask for a role or they create a scenario within the story that requires some kind of challenge, and the players must overcome that challenge to move forward. But if they don't succeed, that kills the story right then and there, and there's no kind of like backup. There's no plan B to get the players to the next part of the story. So let's say you're navigating through a dungeon and you come through what seems to be a dead end, and we're asked to look for some ancient, legendary sword that used to belong to some crazy fighter, at some many, many eons ago and what have you. You go to this dungeon and then you reach the room and it's empty. The DM knows that you're just one more room away. It's behind a secret door, and in there lies this legendary sword that you were looking for. But the players get there, they try to look for a secret door and they fail, and that's it. There goes that. As far as they're concerned, there is no door in that room, and that's the end of that dungeon. And they then thus failed whatever mission they were currently on. So what was the point of having it behind a secret room if they needed that sword to kind of complete the story? Let's say that very sword would kill the big bag evil guy that you're currently dealing with. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just,
I learned very, very early on into Dungeons and Dragons, don't roll unless the DM tells you, because I already have terrible luck as it is. D&D Beyond has been kind of kind to me, except there was an encounter in our personal game where Tortuga's DMing for us. It was 2 fights straight that I just would not reach the attack die to hit the opponents. It was like 2 fights in a row. I got lucky. I got lucky today though. That was nice.
The dice giveth and they taketh away. But that's combat. You need to roll, and that's my whole thing. Combat takes so long as it is, right? Because of that very same thing. You'll stop, you roll, you do the math of what happened, and then you play out the outcome. So it's already a slow moving process. To add that to mundane things that really wouldn't affect anything, it just, I feel, it slows the game down a lot. And of course, everyone has their own style. There might be tables that love that, right?
Right.
And that's their thing. As long as the table is happy and they're having fun, there is no right or wrong rules as long as it works for your table. I'm obviously speaking with my experience of what I've seen, and it's just something that I can't really, defend. Adding roles that are not necessary slows down the game, and I rather get to where I want to be in the story, and by foregoing those extra roles along the way.
That's pretty awesome, man. And it is true. It is going to depend on the table, and trust me, like I know exactly what you mean with combat. Like as soon as it's my turn, I'm already thinking about what to do for my next one.
Right.
And from games that I've seen, games that I've participated in, I wish other people do that. It's the equivalent to me where I've been in a Starbucks and the line is unnaturally long, so I'm waiting like 10, 15 minutes, and the person in front of me decides to start choosing their order when they're at the cashier, and like it's like what's going on here? But yeah,
That is
not.
honestly the most perfect analogy to dealing with combat in Dungeons and Dragons. There are two types of people, and honestly, that's so true. You have those that know exactly what they're going to do when it's their turn, and then you have those that do not even start thinking about it until their name is called up. Now, granted, right, you have to think that the situation changes person to person.
It does.
Once you might have this 10-step plan ready, fleshed out, ready to go, but right before your turn is called up, the person before you killed the target that you had this whole scenario planned out for, and now you're just sitting there like, crap. But and yeah, it's either or. But if you're thinking that far ahead, you're most likely the person that has your order ready before reaching the counter, and then you can adapt. You can kind of just pivot to something else. If you find out that they don't have the hazelnut creamer or whatever the hell people get at Starbucks, you can just go to your number two.
Well, that's good to know. I do have something that's kind of a mix and match here. So I got into my Pokemon with the Game Boy myself, with Red and Blue. I've been playing for a very long time. I've skipped a few generations myself, but Pokemon Sword definitely Shield for me definitely got me back in, and I've been enjoying it. But a lot of the competitive scene comes from the Pokemon cards. And after 20 years, just nearly 20 years, Kadabra is now able to appear on Pokemon cards again. And for those of you who weren't aware, there was an illusionist or magician named Uri Geller. He finally gave Nintendo permission to once again use Kadabra on Pokemon cards. Geller, he's most well known for his ability to, bend spoons with his mind, sued Nintendo in the year 2000 and asked that Kadabra no longer be allowed to be put on Pokemon cards because of the similarity of his spoon and the Japanese name to himself. So Kadabra hasn't officially appeared on any cards since like 2003, probably because they were in production. But he essentially just gave him the green light. So Kadabra will be coming back as, on Pokemon cards.
Wow. That's kind of crazy.
That is pretty crazy, especially considering, like, not for nothing, but Nintendo is kind of the one to always put down like the cease and desist.
Yeah.
And, and for someone to, for lack of a better term, get the upper hand on Nintendo is pretty like kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, it's also very enjoyable to see.
Just a little bit. especially since they're the ones that are always so cautious, that they
Mm-hmm.
don't, like we mentioned last episode, they stopped that tournament because they don't want to set any precedent. I wonder if this is going to set any precedents for them where people will just not ask things to be, printed for, whatever reason.
I feel like Nintendo has an incredible due diligence team, to be honest. And back then in that time frame, like Google, I think Google kicked off in 2003, if I remember right.
Sounds right.
So yeah, for Pokemon to have come out in 95, that Pokemon obviously existed in the first 151 first set of Pokemon. It's not that far fetched to realize that no one in the Nintendo crew or in the research team knew of this illusionist. Not that he wasn't a big name or anything, but it's not impossible that no one on the team or anywhere has ever heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that shocking. It's just like you said, it is funny that he kind of said, "Hey, don't do that," and they stopped for
Yeah,
20 years.
yeah. So that was definitely very interesting. We are creeping up on the final days before Cyberpunk 2077. I don't know if you
Mhm.
have anything with that. I'm really trying to contain my hype. I really am. It's a little difficult. I'm not going to lie. Um,
The only thing I have in regards to that is for our giveaway for Cyberpunk 2077. Once December 9th hits, that'll be the last day to enter, and I will pull a name out of the digital hat.
Now, I kind of have a question on that since you're kind of managing it on your end.
Hit me.
Um, Remember it is going to be kind of a global release. So here on the East Coast for you and I, it'll be 7 p.m. Are you going to do it before then so they can have time
Nope.
to like preload or anything? So are you going to do it like midnight on the 10th or something?
Yeah, so in Gleam.io, that's the platform we're using for the giveaway. The deadline is set for December 9th, 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So once it hits midnight my time, the thing shuts off, and then I'll be able to pull the name from a hat.
Okay, awesome. That's
Yeah.
for you guys to listen. We are doing the giveaway. I do try to remind you guys on Twitter, doing a little quoted tweet, putting a couple hashtags in there. But yeah, just something a little minor.
Just for my sake, I just want to look real fast how many entries. Holy crap.
I want to say I left it at like 4,000.
We're at 5,000.
Wow.
We're at 5,000 entries, which is amazing. It's crazy. It makes me super happy, and I can't wait for someone to finally win this, and for us to kind of start thinking of what the next giveaway is going to be. So definitely use this as a chance to reach out to us and throw ideas our way of what you would think would be a great game for us to throw into a little giveaway like we did with Cyberpunk. I feel like Cyberpunk was such a good game for us to use in as our first giveaway, given how much Pixel loves this game and how much hype is behind this game. I felt like it was like a perfect combination to basically use this as our first giveaway.
Yeah, no, definitely, guys. I really don't have much on Cyberpunk other than more prep than anything. For anyone who has pre-ordered the game, Xbox has already started the preload option. Estimates are in the general area of what they initially said, which was 60 gigabytes for the base game. SSD is the recommendation. However, they are estimating the day one patch to be in the realm of 55 to 60 gigs.
Come on. I was just hoping to get away from that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm super glad that they're doing the release on the 9th. Sorry, giveaway winner, but I'm kind of glad that they're gonna do this on the 9th, and I can start the the update and play it on the 10th because there's no way I'm gonna be able to play it on the 9th. It's gonna be too late in the evening before I have that opportunity.
I'll be having my anniversary dinner on the 9th, so I'm not going to be playing either.
You wouldn't have been able to play even if you didn't have that dinner because that update coming out right after is ridiculous.
Nah, I would have definitely gotten it before then.
The update is a day one update.
Right. So whenever the preload is available, you'd be able to download it.
That's not what day one update means.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's what I read. I didn't do it myself. That's just what I read.
That's not what day one update. It means the first day the game launches, you're hit with another update.
Looks like they've amended it. It's closer to 40.
Still, that's a lot. So one thing, well, I guess two things. Let me go ahead and knock off this this list that I've procured off the interwebs. In regards to the scalping that's been going on recently with the Xbox and the PlayStation, a journalist or a writer for The Verge kind of took it upon himself to do a bit of research in regards to what's happening in the scalping world. And not so much that he wants to, buy anything from a scalper or sell anything as a scalper, but he basically every game that he bought with the PlayStation 5 that he managed to get his hands on, he's already beaten, and it's now collecting dust. There's not much that is going on, no activity happening on the PlayStation. So he considered reselling it now because he already got everything that he wanted out of the way. And while doing his research, he came across basically what the numbers are that the consumers themselves are paying, not what the scalpers are asking for, but what numbers are people actually paying per device.
Do I want to know?
It's bad, but not as bad, because compared to what the scalpers are asking for, it's ridiculous. So, or it's not that as ridiculous. So just to put it into perspective, the PlayStation 5 with the disc retail value is $499 US. And he is seeing that the most consumer, or on average, the consumers are paying $1,024.
What do you mean that's not that bad? That's double.
Right. Compared to what a scalper is asking for, though, it's not that bad.
That's what I've been seeing they're asking for.
No, I've seen them in the fives and tens of thousands.
Those are the ridiculous ones. No, the average that I've seen is 1,000, 1,200, somewhere within that range. For the disc version.
Ridiculous.
No, absolutely. What sucks about this is that this is the reason the scalpers exist, because people are purchasing from the scalpers.
Right.
So if this is going to continue happening because people just must have it day one for the 3 games that they're offering at launch, like it makes no sense to me. And it goes for both consoles. It goes for both. Like, okay, you want to play your Xbox One games at slightly better frame rate and smoothness. Okay, great. Now what? You
build
just
PC.
build a PC. And it's just insane to me that this is the exact reason that these scalpers continue to do what they do, and it's clear as day.
It's capitalism at its finest, right? For the Xbox, right? Same value, same retail value, $499. But the average price that consumers are paying for it is $835 on eBay or any other scalping site. So it's just, and that's not double. That's actually less than double, but still a bit ridiculous. And he even went as far as doing it for graphics cards that are currently out. So the 3090, which asking price is $1,500. It's currently still, out of stock in many, many places. And people are paying around $2,000 for those, which isn't too bad of a markup. But then you move down to its little brother, the RTX 3080, which is retailed at $699. That one's picking up via these scalping sites for $1,227 on average. That's almost double.
My jaws just drop right now. Like how people they just had to get it for Spider-Man. Get 30 hours of gameplay. The campaign is like half of the Spider-Man PS4 one, but they just had to get it. Like I don't understand. The only one that from someone who might enjoy this would be the Demon Souls remake, and still, it's like you really couldn't wait for that game. Like you really couldn't.
I mean, if they're big on spoilers, I don't know how much you can spoil in a Demon Souls game. Never played one.
It's a remake. It's the exact same game that released on the PS3, just with new graphics.
I have no defense.
It doesn't make sense to me that I mean, like I I kind of want a PS5 for God of War, but I cannot justify $500 plus tax. Probably going to go shoot up to like 580 or something like that after everything
Mm-hmm.
for just God of War. And that is a fantastic game series, but I just can't. The current God of War, I borrowed a PlayStation 4 for it because I couldn't justify dropping that money for a new console. This
Right.
they're literally I've played 3 games. It was God of War, Spider Man, and the Final Fantasy VII remake. Oh, and Ghost of Tsushima. So those 4 games. I have a 5th one there, Last of Us 2. That honestly, it didn't go in the direction that I wanted. I kind of even regret getting it. And that's another
Wow.
game. Yeah, that's a game that I was super hyped for. But I just got to a point. It's just like this is doing nothing for me. Like it does not have the charm of the first one.
Gotcha. I mean, and that sucks to have to come to that realization after the fact. But to tie in the rant, I agree with you. There should be no reason for these scalpers to get away with upselling these consoles. I mean, it's great that these consumers that are buying them, I hope they have the money for it and they're not just overextending to, a financial realm they can't afford. But $1,000 for a PlayStation for 3 games that are okay at the moment, it's not. I just
The only upside to this is that I have heard of there was a scalper. They were able to get like 1,000 PS5s, I think it was, and they there was an error in the company system, their POS system, that they essentially canceled the orders.
amazing.
So that was like the only silver lining for me. Put a little smile on my face. I'm not gonna lie, but it's still stop supporting scalpers.
Yeah. I mean, it's and it doesn't help that these consoles come out the month before Christmas time, right?
Right.
Because all these families, they want to get this PlayStation or this Xbox for their kid. They want them to have that awesome shiny, like, they may not be doing it for themselves. They're doing it to make someone around them happy.
Right.
And it's just these very same people should just accept that, you didn't get your hands on it on release. You couldn't beat the bot. But the thing is, if you stop buying them post sellout, then eventually people will stop scalping. But that's never really going to happen because someone's always going to continue supporting scalpers.
Man, I will never forget that gentleman in Asia who sold a kidney for the iPhone 4 or 4S. I think it was the 4S.
Jesus.
A legitimate kidney.
That's ridiculous. That's actually ridiculous. And I got one more thing. It's my rant of the week.
Oh man, he's getting ready. Get comfortable, guys.
So last episode, I spoke about how Curseforge was moving away from Twitch and over to Overwolf. Earlier this week, that transition has finally started, and Twitch no longer owns or supports the Curseforge application through their own application. So Curseforge is officially part of the Overwolf package. Now, if you've never heard of Overwolf, it is probably the worst program you can put on your computer, second to a virus.
Bruh. Wow. Okay. That's what you're doing to them today? Okay.
I'm serious. If you've never used Overwolf, you live a great life. And what's crazy is Overwolf. Oh, just how the statement that you love using all the time. Overwolf overpromises and underdelivers time and time again. And taking over Curseforge, mind you, this acquisition happened back in June 2016. It's not something recent. It's not something surprising. This has been in the works for years. It just finally happened this month. That's the only thing new. And since they took over, since Curseforge has moved over to Overwolf, right? Curseforge over to Overwolf, almost every mod in World of Warcraft, because that's the only thing I use it for, almost every mod in World of Warcraft broke first day.
Son.
Completely broke. You logged in and you try to update it, and everything just was corrupted. Just everything you tried to do, all your mods, and he sent so many mods. I saw what they had to do to get this fixed because the transition over to Overwolf was horrible. They basically had to delete the old mod, which already built up their reputation and their reviews and had their 40 million downloads, 100 million downloads, and they had to start from scratch. All of these mods that already were top charted, just scrapped it and recreated it in Curseforge again in order for it to be uploaded into Overwolf.
So hold up.
Whatever.
I apologize. The modders or whatever had to.
Right.
Wow.
The modder tried to update their I don't even know if it's an API. It might be. I don't mess with mod app programming too much, but they try to update it and get it, up to code essentially with Overwolf to run through that application. So when people do searches for updates and whatnot, what have you, have everything clean and ready to go. There was a break that the modders could not get what they were doing. They could not get what they were doing into their mod. It wouldn't happen. Curseforge just it wasn't working. So what they ended up doing was just scrapping the mod, like its existence, and basically recreating it from essentially scratch. All they really did was just rebox it, right? It's still all the same content. They just had to rebox it, but it removed all of their data that, everything that accumulated since its initial launch, some even, 5 or even 10 years old. And it's just strange. I logged in and I went through the process and I'm like, what's going on with all my mods? And I was looking through a few, and I honestly thought that I was getting scammed. Like I was in the wrong website because a mod that I knew had over 100 million downloads was sitting at 5,000. I'm like, am I getting a ripoff version of a mod I used to use? Like, what's going on? So then I dug a little bit further, and it turned out that there was some kind of break on the mods account and Curseforge that did not let them do what they had to do to get them into Overwolf. So, needless to say, I started going through everything that I could find on updating mods, and luckily, someone took it upon themselves to create another application that can check when your mods are out of date and then update them and not have to use Overwolf. So if you were caught in the situation where you needed to use Overwolf, you can uninstall it happily, knowing that an application known as WowUp, so WOWUP, does the exact same function of searching for any mods that you have installed. It also lets you install mods through this application and keeps it up to date. And all the mods that were broken initially when Overwolf took over this week, I used WowUp to basically reinstall. So it uninstalled it and then it reinstalled it to its new location and its new home. And I was able to get the mods that were missing. I still have issues with certain mods. I'm still getting crazy amounts of for the developer bug code, the LUA that's coming up on my screen. I'm still getting in the 50s and 60s, which is ridiculous. That means a lot of things aren't working. But at least I was able to update, the main ones that I end up using.
It's mind blowing that, like, I understand some transitions aren't as easy as others, but to have a community so large like World of Warcraft be impeded by this transition day one of a new expansion, it's just mind boggling to me how someone could again overpromise and underdeliver. It's literally one of the first rules that you learn. Do not overpromise and don't underdeliver. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, Overwolf is king, and that's not even the worst. They're essentially a bloatware. At least they used to be back in the day when I would use them for League of Legends. That's how I learned about Overwolf, because they were, they had these awesome UIs that these overlays that you can put that would react to things that were happening in game, like really cool ideas. And I was all for it. And I, and I wanted it. And that's the reason I downloaded it, just to come find out that Overwolf was pulling a good chunk of my resources, and like everything would crash. I would have frame lag and all this other crap that I was dealing with just for using this extra UI was never worth it. And I've seen time and time again, they would attach themselves to other new games like Smite, Valorant. They partnered with Alienware, and even then, like it never got better. And with this acquisition or the start of the utilization of Curseforge, there's still not even a subpar application to have.
It's still just I have no words. All right, well, you enjoy that Overwolf, bro. That alone will probably just make me keep Shadowlands in the background. Um, just a couple quick things here to as we're kind of leaning towards the end. We have, for those of you who are interested in these kind of games, we do have Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney coming to Game Pass. There's also the original version of Dragon Quest XI has actually been delisted from Steam to make way for the Switch port. We've brought this up a couple times as well, but Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is apparently not to be expected until the second half of 2021.
Wow.
Yep.
It'll get here when it gets here.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, honestly, like for me, like the game that I've been waiting, again, Cyberpunk, I've been waiting for it forever. It's finally here sometime this week. Well, not sometime, but this week. And I'm excited for that. Apparently BioWare teased Dragon Age 4 reveal at the Game Awards. And this is kind of, doesn't really fall under a video game per se, but for many, many years now, the Metal Gear Solid movie has been in the works, right? But it's changed hands, changed writers, directors, the whole nine. But the most recent news in regards to this movie title is Oscar Isaac has been casted as Solid Snake. And for those of you who are unaware of the actor or are not good with names of actors, he was most recently in the new Star Wars trilogy as Poe Dameron, the new fighter pilot, essentially.
Huh.
Yep.
It's a good little fluff piece.
Yeah, just a bit, bro. And for those of you who are enjoying World of Warcraft, specifically World of Warcraft Classic, the Scourge Invasion and Naxxramas raid are now available.
Okay. Nothing I play.
Yeah, I figured. And a little bit of kind of fluff piece here. Apparently, someone spent about 45 hours building an RTX 3070 gaming PC in Minecraft.
What?
They built like a whole tower in Minecraft.
Like a PC tower.
A PC tower with all the components and everything inside.
Okay. Minecraft is just weird to me.
Minecraft is weird to me. Like, I get the concept, like the general concept, but like I've seen people make like Hyrule Castle in here, like just completely remake towns and everything. And you got to remember, like the way it is that you're a person. So as you're traveling, like in first person, they made like the internal portions of the PC that you can travel through, but you are essentially in a computer. It's like It's like Reboot all over again.
Oh, God. Now that's a classic.
That is a classic. I love me some Reboot.
I don't know how Reboot got away with half the stuff they did because it was like copyright infringement. It was copyright infringement galore.
Yeah. Warning, incoming game. Had that Mortal Kombat one towards the end of like the second season or something. Yeah, it was a good time. This is definitely a good time.
I remember the Mega Man one, and they turned the dog into the dog from Mega Man.
Yeah, the Rush. Yeah. Wow. Yes. Okay. That's a good time. And then just a minor thing, if you are a fan of Bungie, they apparently have been working on new projects away from Destiny.
I'm curious to see what they come out with.
I am too. I think they have a lot of potential, especially considering they did give us the original Halo. I mean, their animation is beautiful. Like their sci-fi stuff is honestly gorgeous.
Right? Yeah, they have a lot like that they can give the gaming community. And something that I read today, I wasn't going to bring it up until I had more information, but it kind of ties into everything we're talking about, anyways. A game developer from the Epic world, an older Epic developer, is part of a new kind of like gaming studio, but there's not much information around it. It's just that him and like I think 4 or 5 other developers created their own little gaming studio, and there is a game in development, but more information is going to come out early January. Again, not much to go on, but currently they filed with the SEC that they received a $5 million kind of like investment towards this studio, which obviously they have to legally report, and it's a public finding. And it's under the name Lightforge Incorporated. There's no information outside of this document out there. I tried already. But they're going to announce early January what it is that they're working on and what we can expect. But it was a lot of names that worked on some pretty big titles. A lot of it being around StarCraft.
Okay. Real quick, actually, before we start signing off over here, we have brought it into the podcast a couple times. The Monster Hunter film. So it is set to hit theaters on Christmas Day, December 25th. And apparently it's already causing quite the controversy in China, where it has already been released. Per Variety, the film has been pulled from theaters after its opening day and is currently being censored by Chinese regulators. There's apparently a 10-second long exchange within the film that I guess patriotic local viewers say insults China. Now, originally, Monster Hunter was going to make up about 25% of all film screenings in China on that Friday, and apparently that number has fallen down to under 1%. So they are working on essentially refilming that. And I haven't seen it, but essentially what this scene is kind of portraying here, or the scene in question, is that there's like a pun heavy exchange between two characters, and that unwittingly, as it seems, made Chinese moviegoers think that it's essentially a reference to a racist schoolyard rhyme that insults Asians. And I guess what made it everything even worse was the way that the translation made it even worse.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, they're taking it as an insult. And again, currently it was just, it was pulled. They are working on it. So we'll see what happens with that.
Crazy. Well, hopefully they can get that fixed, because from what I've seen, it looks, like a decent movie, not a day one movie, but it looks decent enough to catch, on a rainy day.
Sounds like being Sonic. I actually I'm beginning an itch to watch it. Like I definitely, but I don't know. I don't know how much it's worth to me at the moment.
That's fair. I mean, I wasn't one of those people that cried about the initial design of Sonic. So I hope all those people that cried about it and it was fixed to something that they approved of actually supported the film, because that overhaul was most likely super expensive.
I don't know. I think we mentioned it on the podcast. I kind of have my aluminum foil hat with that whole thing.
They did it. They didn't even initially.
Right.
That the real design.
They spent more money creating that fake Sonic because they already had that second model ready to go.
That would be impressive, to be honest.
And it's just, again, it's just me and my tinfoil hat. That's all that it is. Well, guys, I know I've been trying to sign off. That's definitely the Hispanic in me at a party. But again, Cyberpunk 77 is coming out. Expect a pretty heavy patch. They did come out with a photo mode as well, if that's something you're into. I personally will be going the corporal route for my first run. I'll probably do a jack of all trades with a little more emphasis on hacking and net running rather than like assault and weapons. And that's gonna be it. I actually think I'm gonna stream it. I think I'm gonna do that.
Nice, very nice. You're gonna stream on yours, or you're gonna stream on our YouTube?
I don't know if my rig can handle it. I'll try to do both.
Good luck.
Yeah, I'll see what Streamlabs allows me to do. I know it allows me to stream to multiple at the same time. I'll see if YouTube's on there.
All right, nice. Definitely give me. Well, I don't want to watch because you're gonna be ahead of me at any point of that game. So I'll catch it when I finish my game in like a year.
Bruh. Bruh. And not too video gamey, but there has been some artwork released, dragon artwork for the Game of Thrones prequel.
I thought it was canceled.
Apparently not.
God, it's worse than a bad marriage, bro. I can't keep up.
All right, man. That's gonna be it for me.
All right. That's it for me as well. Definitely want to thank everyone listening for spending their time yet again with us this week. As always, you can check our descriptions below where you can find additional content for both Pixel and I. If you'd like what you hear on our episodes, definitely give us a follow, or even better, share our podcast with another gamer that you think would enjoy this podcast. So thanks again, all you, for taking the time to listen to us. And remember, gamers lead the way.